Welcome back. Prosecutors in Sweden have dropped the investigation into a rape allegation made against the WikiLeaks co-founder Julian Assange in 2010. Here's Simon Pusey with more international stories in Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel's newsroom here in London. Prosecutors in Sweden have dropped an investigation into a rape allegation made against WikiLeaks co-founder Julian Assange in 2010. Assange, who denies the accusation, has avoided extradition to Sweden for 7 years after seeking refuge at the Ecuadorian embassy in London in 2012.
Good evening, London.
The 48-year-old Australian was evicted last month and sentenced to 50 weeks in jail for breaching his bail conditions. He is currently being held at Belmarsh Prison in London. The prosecutors said the decision had been taken after 7 witnesses in the case had been interviewed. Up to 200 anti-government protesters remain barricaded inside a Hong Kong university surrounded by police as the standoff continues for a 3rd day. Those inside Polytechnic University are said to be running low on supplies. Protesters have been inside the campus since last week, initially stopping police from entering by lighting fires and throwing petrol bombs. Police say adults who leave will be arrested. Hundreds of protesters tried to run from the campus on Monday, but many were hit with tear gas and rubber bullets and arrested. The city's leader says those in the university who are under 18 won't be arrested and will be allowed to return home.
I have asked that the treatment to these underminers should be in a very humanitarian way. So we have arranged for principals and religious groups, representatives to go into the campus to encourage and persuade these miners to come out peacefully. And if they come out peacefully, we will just put down the data. So we make a record of their personal data, and they may then leave the campus and return to home.
24 Malian soldiers have been killed and 29 wounded in an attack on an army patrol in northern Mali on Monday, in which 17 militants were also killed. The West African country is still reeling from an attack on an army post that killed 54 people in early November, one of the deadliest strikes against its military in recent memory, which underscored the increasing reach and sophistication of armed jihadist groups active in the region. The Malian patrol attacked was in the Gao region. The authorities have not named the assailants or identified which group they belong to. There are reports of dozens of deaths in Iran as authorities try to stem the spread of nationwide protests that have gripped the country since Friday. Protesters took to the streets shortly after the government announced an increase in fuel prices by as much as 300%. Here, demonstrators blocking a main road in the capital in protest at the price hikes. A government-imposed internet blackout started on Saturday evening, causing large parts of the country to go almost entirely offline.
They have shut down the internet in Iran. At the same time, the supreme leader, the president, and the foreign minister continue to use social media, and they use the internet to get out their message, but they don't let the Iranian people get out the truth.
The Afghan Taliban have freed 2 Western hostages in exchange for 3 imprisoned senior militants. That's according to Taliban sources. American Kevin King and Australian Timothy Weeks were released 3 years after being kidnapped outside the American University of Afghanistan in Kabul, where they worked as professors. The 3 militants arrived in Qatar from Afghanistan as part of the swap. Afghan officials say the deal is aimed at restarting talks with the Taliban. President Ashraf Ghani said last week the decision was a tough but important one and a humanitarian gesture. Mudslides following heavy snowfall and rain caused severe damage in parts of Austria on Tuesday, 2 days after the authorities had declared a state of emergency. Authorities in the Salzburg province viewed the area from the air on Tuesday, with first damage estimates put at around €6 million. In the Gaster Internal Valley, more than 100 landslides occurred and villagers reported some 3,500 incidents. And finally, the renowned broadcaster Sir David Attenborough says the world is beginning to tackle the threat of plastic waste. Sir David, describing plastic pollution as vile and horrid, said there was growing awareness of the damage it can do. The presenter was speaking as he and his team were announced as the winners of the Chatham House Prize for the Blue Planet 2 series of documentaries.
People in all parts of society are aware of what's happening, and it's vile, it's horrid, it's something that we are clearly seeing inflicting on the natural world, having a dreadful effect. and there's something that they can do about it. So in a way, it's a bit of a litmus test to see whether, in fact, the population care about this sort of thing, and people do. And so I think it's very encouraging.
And that's your international news around the world in 5.
Welcome to Sports News. The Nigeria Football Federation has confirmed that its technical department would undergo reconstruction in response to the dismal performances of Super Falcons, the Chan Eagles, Golden Eaglet, Olympic Eagles in recent international matches and tournament. The NFF President Amaju Pinnick made this known in a 15-page letter to the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, after the meeting between the Ministry and the Football Federation on Monday. NFF President said the reconstruction includes improved supervision of the teams by the technical committee, open and transparent process of selecting new head coaches for the teams affected, early preparations and prioritization of tournament. He blamed the incessant court cases and corruption probes against the Football Federation for the poor outings of the affected teams. And in England, Tottenham Hotspurs has sacked head coach Mauricio Pochettino after 5 years in charge of the Premier League club. Pochettino was appointed in May 2014 and led the club to UEFA Champions League finals last season, where they lost to Liverpool. Both Tottenham Hotspurs have made a disappointing start to the current campaign and are 14th in the Premier League. Pochettino's assistant, Jesus Perez, and coaches Miguel D'Agostino and Antoni Jimenez have also left the club. And the Spanish Football Federation's president, Luis Rubiales, has confirmed that Luis Enrique has been appointed as Spain's head coach. Following a year at the helm, Enrique stepped down as Spanish boss in June after his daughter, who died in August, was diagnosed with a serious illness. After initially taking over in a caretaker capacity, the 49-year-old assistant coach, Robert Moreno, was appointed as full-time La Roya coach. Under Moreno, Spain reached Euro 2020 as winners of Group F, beating Romania 5-0 in the final qualifying match on Monday night. And that's it on Sports News. Ijama will be back with the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Sunyata. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today called for the quick passage of the Special Crimes Court Bill by the National Assembly to give more bite to his administration's anti-corruption fight. The president was speaking at an anti-corruption summit organized by the ICPC. Also today, the Katsina High Court adjourned to December the 11th and 12th the trial of former Governor Ibrahim Shima and 3 others over alleged diversion of over 10 billion naira local government funds. And prosecutors in Sweden today dropped investigations into rape allegations against WikiLeaks co-founder Julian Assange, saying evidence in the case has weakened. And that's it on the news at 10. I'm Ijoma Hunyato. Thanks a lot for staying with us. Good night.